One of the biggest mistakes men make when dealing with women is oversharing their insecurities. Attraction isn't built through weakness. And when a man constantly talks about his fears, doubts, and shortcomings, it doesn't draw her closer. It pushes her away. This happens because women are naturally drawn to strength, confidence, and certainty. When you present yourself as the opposite, it creates an emotional disconnect. Think about it. Imagine you're with a woman and every conversation turns into you admitting how stressed you are, how you don't feel good enough, how your life is a mess. She might feel empathy for you in the moment, but attraction and empathy are not the same thing. Attraction is fueled by confidence, and the more you unload your insecurities onto her, the more she stops seeing you as the strong, grounded man she was initially drawn to. Of course, this doesn't mean you have to pretend to be perfect or never open up. Vulnerability has its place, but it has to be selective and earned. The mistake men make is confusing vulnerability with dumping every negative thought or fear onto a woman early on. Instead of building intimacy, it overwhelms her and makes her feel like she has to play the role of your therapist. And the moment she feels she has to carry your emotional weight, her attraction begins to fade. A woman doesn't fall in love with a man because he needs fixing. She falls in love because he inspires her, because he makes her feel safe, excited, and feminine around him. When you're stuck in your insecurities and you keep voicing them, what you're really communicating is that you don't believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, why should she? Confidence doesn't come from hiding your flaws. It comes from accepting them without letting them define you. The difference is subtle but powerful. A man who acknowledges his struggles but moves forward anyway is far more attractive than a man who constantly complains about them. Women notice this contrast immediately. They can sense when you're living from a place of strength or a place of fear. The key is to understand that women are not drawn to words of weakness, but to the energy of confidence. If your conversations are dominated by your insecurities, you're sending the wrong signal. Instead, focus on being grounded, present, and purposeful. When you carry yourself with certainty, even in the face of challenges, she feels the strength that deepens her attraction. So never mistake oversharing your insecurities for creating closeness. What you're actually doing is slowly draining the attraction that keeps her drawn to you. And when you understand this truth, you'll see why telling her you have no options is another attraction killer that men must avoid. One of the quickest ways to kill attraction with a woman is to make her feel like she's your only option. When you communicate that she's the only one who will ever give you a chance, or that your entire happiness depends on her, you aren't building love, you're suffocating it. Women are drawn to men who are desirable, men who have options, men who can stand confidently in the world without clinging to someone for validation. The moment you tell a woman she's your only shot, you place yourself in a position of weakness. Think about the energy behind a statement like, "You're the only one I could ever be with." On the surface, it sounds romantic, but underneath it communicates desperation. It says you don't believe you have value outside of her. It tells her that if she ever walks away, your entire sense of self will collapse. That doesn't make her feel more connected. It makes her feel trapped. And attraction cannot survive in a space where someone feels burdened. The reality is, high-value men don't operate from scarcity. They don't look at one woman as their only chance at happiness. They know their worth, they know they bring value, and they understand that women are naturally attracted to men who have a life full of opportunity. A man who has options doesn't need to say it, his energy communicates it. He has a mission, he has goals, and he moves through life with purpose. That kind of man doesn't put one woman on a pedestal because he knows he is the prize. When you tell a woman she's your only option, you remove the mystery, you remove the challenge. You make her feel like she has already won you without effort. And when something is given too easily, it loses its value. That's why confidence and abundance mindset are so important in attraction. A woman should feel that you desire her, but not that you're dependent on her. She should sense that you've chosen her, not that you had no other choice. And this doesn't mean you have to play games or pretend to be dating multiple women if you're not. It simply means you must live your life in a way that reflects abundance, growth, and purpose. Build your career, chase your passions, and surround yourself with people who elevate you. When you live from that place, a woman naturally feels she is choosing a man of value, not rescuing a man with none. So remember, attraction dies when you communicate scarcity. Women don't want to feel like they're saving you from loneliness. They want to feel like they're part of your exciting, purposeful life. And when you understand this, you'll see why begging for reassurance is another deadly mistake that weakens attraction instantly. So another way men unknowingly destroy attraction is by constantly begging for reassurance. It usually comes out in subtle questions. Do you still like me? Are you sure you love me? You're not going to leave me, right? On the surface, it might seem harmless, but what it really communicates is insecurity, doubt, and fear. And nothing kills attraction faster than a man who needs a woman's constant validation to feel secure in himself. When you beg for reassurance, you put her in a position where she has to convince you of your worth. You're essentially asking her to carry the burden of your self-esteem. At first, she may try to comfort you, but over time, it becomes draining. A woman doesn't want to be your mother or your therapist. She wants to be your lover. She's attracted to a man who is confident in himself, who doesn't need to constantly ask for proof that he's good enough. Attraction grows in the presence of certainty. Women feel drawn to men who stand grounded, who believe in themselves without needing someone else to repeat it every day. The moment you look to her to fill that role, she feels less inspired and more responsible. That responsibility kills the spark. Instead of feeling excited to be around you, she feels like she has to manage your emotions. And once she feels that, the dynamic begins to shift in the wrong direction. The irony is, the more you ask her for reassurance, the less reassured you actually feel. Because even when she says, yes, I like you, you'll ask again tomorrow and the next day. And eventually she sees that nothing she says will ever be enough to satisfy your insecurity. That's when frustration sets in and attraction starts to fade. The most attractive men understand that reassurance doesn't come from words. It comes from action and presence. When you live with purpose, when you take care of yourself, when you pursue your goals with confidence, a woman naturally feels safe and secure with you. She doesn't need to constantly tell you she likes you because her behavior will already show it. She invests in you. She spends time with you. She chooses to be by your side. That's real reassurance, and it's far more powerful than words. So instead of begging for reassurance, embody the kind of man who doesn't need it. Believe in yourself enough that her words are simply confirmation of what you already know. When you operate from that energy, she feels free to love you instead of obligated to manage your doubts. And once you understand this, it becomes clear why talking badly about yourself is another subtle way men destroy attraction without even realizing it. Another mistake that kills attraction instantly is talking badly about yourself. Many men think that self-deprecating humor or constantly pointing out their flaws makes them relatable, but in reality, it chips away at the very foundation of attraction. Confidence. A woman wants to look at you and see a man who believes in himself. If you're the first one to criticize yourself, doubt yourself, or minimize your value, you're showing her that you don't truly believe you deserve her attention. At first, it might seem harmless. Maybe you joke about not being good enough, not being successful, or not being attractive. You might laugh as you say it, but the message you're sending is serious. Over time, those words sink into her mind, and she starts to believe them too. If you keep telling her that you're not worthy, eventually she'll start asking herself why she's with you in the first place. What was once a playful comment becomes a subtle form of self-sabotage. The truth is, women mirror the way you treat yourself. If you respect yourself, carry yourself with pride, and acknowledge your strengths, she will see you through that same lens. But if you constantly put yourself down, she'll unconsciously adopt that frame of reference. You're teaching her how to see you, and the picture you're painting is not attractive. Confidence isn't about arrogance, and it's not about pretending to be perfect. It's about owning who you are, the strengths and the flaws, without using them as weapons against yourself. A man who can laugh at his mistakes without making them his identity shows resilience. But a man who constantly defines himself by his shortcomings comes across as weak and uncertain, and weakness, in this sense, kills desire. It's also important to realize that talking bad about yourself forces her into the role of constantly building you up. If every conversation requires her to reassure you, remind you that you're good enough, or convince you that you're attractive, she'll eventually feel more like your caretaker than your partner. And no woman wants to feel like she has to mother a man in order to be with him. The most magnetic men know how to shift the energy. They acknowledge their imperfections without dwelling on them, and they highlight their strengths with quiet confidence. They carry themselves in a way that says, I know who I am, and I'm proud of it. That energy is contagious, and it makes a woman want to stay in your presence because it uplifts her instead of dragging her down. Remember, the words you use about yourself matter. Every time you talk badly about yourself, you lower the frame of attraction. Every time you speak with confidence and certainty, you raise it. And this is exactly why oversharing your past relationships is another mistake men make, one that kills attraction just as quickly. One of the easiest ways to destroy attraction without realizing it is by oversharing about your past relationships. Too many men think being completely transparent about their exes, their heartbreaks, and all the drama they've been through will somehow build trust with a woman. But in reality, it usually does the opposite. When you dive too deep into your history, instead of pulling her closer, you make her feel like she's competing with your past or that you're still stuck in it. A woman wants to feel like she's the most important person in your world right now. She doesn't want to sit and listen to stories about how your ex broke your heart, how toxic your old relationship was, or how badly you were treated before. Even if you share those details because you're trying to be honest, it frames you as someone who hasn't moved on. Attraction dies the moment she feels like you're mostly living in yesterday. There's also the issue of comparison. If you talk too much about your past, whether it's positive or negative, you risk making her feel like she's being compared to someone else. Maybe you praise your ex's qualities, or maybe you constantly bash her flaws. Either way, you're still bringing her into the conversation. That makes the woman in front of you feel like she's not being seen for who she is, but through the lens of someone else's shadow. No one wants to feel like a replacement. Another problem with oversharing is that it strips away the mystery. Early on, a woman is attracted to discovery. She wants to learn about you naturally, at her own pace, through experience. When you unload your entire romantic history, you leave nothing for her to uncover. Worse, you run the risk of looking like you crave sympathy or validation for your past. That's not strength. That's emotional baggage, and it's unattractive. The most attractive men know how to keep the focus forward. Yes, everyone has a past, but it doesn't need to dominate the present. A confident man doesn't hide it, but he also doesn't dwell on it. If it comes up naturally, he addresses it briefly and moves on. He knows that what matters most is the connection he's building in the moment, not the pain he left behind. Women are drawn to men who live in the now, men who show through their actions and energy that they've healed, grown, and are ready to create something new. When you demonstrate that, she feels secure. She knows she's not competing with ghosts of the past, and she can invest herself fully without hesitation. So never let your past relationships dominate the conversation. If you want her attraction to grow, give her the gift of presence and show her that the best part of your life isn't behind you, it's right here with her. And that's why the final point, understanding why less is more in attraction, ties everything together perfectly. The truth about attraction is that less is almost always more. Too many men think that winning a woman over is about constant talking, endless explaining, or revealing every thought and feeling they have. They overcompensate by oversharing, by constantly seeking validation, or by trying too hard to prove their worth. But the reality is, Attraction doesn't grow in noise, it grows in space, in subtlety, in the mystery of what is left unsaid. When you reveal everything too soon, you take away the natural curiosity that makes her want to discover you more. Think about it. When a book reveals the ending in the first chapter, what's the point of reading the rest? Women don't fall for a man because he tells them everything up front. They fall because they feel something. An energy, a presence, a vibe that sparks curiosity and makes them lean in. And that spark comes from restraint, from holding back just enough to let her wonder. Confidence isn't about always speaking. It's about knowing when to stay silent. It's about being comfortable in your own skin without needing to constantly explain yourself. A man who says less but carries himself with certainty communicates volumes without words. That kind of energy is magnetic because it allows her to fill in the blanks with her own imagination. And trust me, her imagination will always be more powerful than anything you could try to force through words. And this is why mystery is such a powerful element of attraction. When you don't hand everything over right away, she gets the thrill of pursuit. She invests energy in trying to figure you out, and that investment deepens her connection. On the other hand, when you over-explain, overshare, or constantly try to justify yourself, you rob her of that experience. Instead of being intrigued, she feels smothered. Instead of curiosity, she feels boredom. Less is more also applies to how you express interest. If you shower a woman with nonstop compliments, constant texts, and endless validation, those words quickly lose their impact. But when you're intentional, when you compliment her genuinely, when you text with purpose, when your actions speak louder than words, every little thing you do carries far more weight. She values it more because it's not given so freely that it loses meaning. The most attractive men are the ones who live in alignment with their purpose, who give just enough to spark curiosity, and who create an energy where a woman feels drawn in, not pushed away. They don't try to force attraction with endless effort. They let it unfold naturally. They understand that silence, space, and mystery can sometimes be more powerful than constant reassurance or explanation. So remember, less is more when it comes to attraction. Give her just enough to feel your presence, but never so much that she feels overwhelmed. Let her invest, let her wonder, and let her feel the joy of discovering you piece by piece. And that's the ultimate reason why never telling a woman certain things and keeping your frame strong is the key to building lasting attraction.